What's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker. This is episode number 107. Today we're going to be talking about how to give back to WordPress community. Let's go around the room real quick here and get everyone introduced.
Right off the bat.
After the quarter with Chris. Chris, you're back.
I'm back. Hi there. I'm Chris Lemma. I blog over at chrislemma.com. I'm also recently employed by Crowd Favorite.
Chris, how many miles did you travel in the last month?
I don't know, 8,000?
You can say in kilometers if you have to.
Yeah.
Let's just use the very technical term, a grip, and leave it at that, shall we?
Definitely.
He traveled a grip.
Dave, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm from Spectrum Tech, and we build web applications and e-commerce solutions.
Oh, that's how you say it. Spectrum. I was saying spectrum. It's different.
George.
Hi, I'm George Stefanis. I do Jetpack and core stuff and all sorts of magics.
Very nice.
Ooh.
What about you, Jeff?
Hey, my name's Jeff. I am a front-end developer over at Crowd Favorite and one of the co-organizers of WordCamp Orange County.
Woo! Very cool.
Crowd Favorite, rolling deep.
Corey, what about you? Hey, Corey, tell us about yourself.
Hey, y'all. I am Corey from Webtegrity down in San Antonio, Texas, co-organizer of the first ever WordCamp San Antonio.
Very nice.
Hey. That's awesome.
We're excited for you. How about you, Natalie?
Hi, I'm Natalie MacLeese. I'm founder and principal of Purple Pen Productions and author of jQuery for Designers.
Very cool. Say.
Every time Natalie says her name, I want to say Natalie MacDaddy. Yeah. That's better.
You're the only one saying.
My head. She's the MacDaddy. All right, my name is Say Reed, and I do make and love WordPress. Not in Texas, and at Say I don't even know my own name. At Say Reed Media, at all the things, on all the things. Pronouns are your friend.
How about you, Steve?
I am Steve Zingen. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I lead the Palmdale WordPress meetup. I lead the WordPress meetup, and tonight will be the design meetup with Sarah Weefald.
Very cool. Suzette.
Hello, everybody. I'm Suzette Frank, and I am a front-end developer at WebDev Studios, and I blog over at SuzetteFrank.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at Suzette_Frank. And I love WordPress.
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me on Twitter, Jason Tucker, and I blog about audio-video stuff at WPmedia.pro. All right, Steve. So define the word community for us.
Community?
That was Steve can't define that word.
Stalling for time.
He's like, hold on, Google.
I really cut out. Is that what you say? Define community?
Yeah, define.
How is that what we're starting off with? How is that? That's not even.
Yeah, that's not even the topic.
What? Here's a
So define the word giving.
Okay, look.
Define contribution.
Jason is our host. If he gives you an assignment, you don't mock him. You give it.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
what show are you on?
Jason gets more respect.
In 4 seconds, he's going to start dropping you off the show, and it's going to be left with like 3 of us just sitting here chatting. So just respond. You don't want to see him when he gets angry, so just give him an answer, Steve.
All right, community is a noun meaning a group of people who live in the same area, such as a city, town, or neighborhood.
Susceptible to Ebola. What? No.
Steve, the reason why I ask is, with most episodes, you always ask me to define one of the words within the sentence that we have within the topic name. So I thought I would just say a word and have you define it.
Define your mom.
That's what you get for trying to be like prepared and like ask deep questions.
Noun, a very nice woman.
All right. The real question though is, right, we're talking about giving back to the WordPress community. This has been a major topic lately. Feel free to Google it. I tweeted a bunch of articles that are related to that if you want to get all the inside scoop. But what it really comes down to is not how much you should necessarily give or what that means monetarily, in my view anyway. But what that means is, what I saw really missing from that conversation was all the different ways to give it back. A lot of the conversation revolved around like deep core stuff, like supercode stuff, And there's so many other ways that at all of the WordCamps and meetups, everyone's always talking about giving back, and I didn't know if we'd done an episode on it, so thought we could.
Yeah, that's one thing that they did actually at. So we just finished up with WordCamp Dallas, and I don't mean like we put it on, like Brandon and I and Robert attended, but they made a distinction on their Sunday to call it Contribution Day and not a Dev Day, which in WordCamps we often call the Sundays the Dev Day, and it wasn't. It was they kind of went over like you don't need to code, you don't even need to know anything. If you're just looking for bugs or if you want to do documentation or you want to translate things, I mean, there's stuff for anyone to do if you want to get back to WordPress. So I like that about WordCamp Dallas.
And a lot of WordCamps are doing that. I mean, in WordCamp LA, they did that, where it was like, let's get everyone to contribute, and here's how you can do it. And some people are like, I don't know how to code. Other people are like, well, I don't know how to, whatever. And some of the folks were like, well, do you know how to write English? Because we need documentation. And like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And
Or speak it,
No,
another guy
came
came
in
and said,
that's the cool thing.
Yeah,
But
I
I think
think
said, you know what,
at LA, there was a 12-year-old girl answering questions in the support forums on the contributor day.
Yeah.
Right.
That was great.
It's like, do you know how to use Google? Because many of the folks in the support forum don't.
Yeah.
Well, there's
I
that,
think
but
Well, and I'm not saying that is a bad thing to put down on people that don't, because there are a lot of folks that just don't think of that, or they're looking for, is Google going to find me the best way? It may be find me a way, but is that really the best way? And I think we really should applaud folks that are trying to find the right way of doing things, so they come ask folks that think they know the answer.
To be fair, though, a lot of times if you're a new user or if you're a new developer, you don't actually know the terminology to Google. Like, so that is sometimes a problem. You could be sitting there like looking up slidey thingy over and over, but you don't know it's called a carousel. Like, you're not going to get yourself very far. So I think that actually the sarcasm that goes along with have you Googled that is sometimes misplaced. Sometimes it's totally called for. But like sometimes it's like, well, what do you even call that thingy that I'm trying to do? And we can help people in the support forums or wherever articulate those things and say, oh, what you're actually looking for, is a carousel
Is a very bad thing. Don't call it a slidey thing. Call it a very bad thing.
Call it something very good.
All right, so
We call them the accursed.
I think giving back to core is one way to give back to the community. But when I hear this topic, I think of ways to run a WordPress meetup and ways to give back to your local community outside of WordCamp. Now, and I'm not saying anything is good or bad. I'm just saying there's plenty of ways to give back to the community.
That's what I.
That though, if so, the one thing is how do you give back to WordPress? And again, we have to think of WordPress as not just this platform. It is the community, it's the people, it's all these other things we're doing. I think the other thing that we have a difficulty with is, so we say someone says I want to help, and then there's that hurdle of how. So what do you do, and then how do you do it?
Wait, there's a hurdle of what?
And one way to do it is
What is it a hurdle of? I missed that. A hurdle.
Yeah,
of
I think it's a hurdle. Do you know how to contribute back to core?
I do because I attended. No, I do because I attended WordCamp San Francisco last year as Contributor Day, and I, was able to. I mean, I'm code stuff, but I'm certainly not going to contribute core code. But I have,
Right. But
can
again,
contribute help
but
all that.
Is that you had to go to WordCamp San Francisco to figure it out. It wasn't like you just Googled like, hey, how can I give back? And then there was an easy, here's some steps you can take.
I think that's key, though, also in what Steve is saying, because that's where we can help in our immediate communities try to explain that there are opportunities like that. The very first ever Contributor Day I ever attended was just a WordPress meetup group up in Austin. I drove up there for Contributor Day and got to learn what it was all about. I had no clue, and I've been working with WordPress for 4 years already. I had no idea until I was educated in an actual meetup group.
And I want to be clear on something. You don't have to be an expert in WordPress. You don't have to be a coder. No. You don't have to be a developer to run a WordPress meetup. You don't actually even have to know anything about WordPress.
Okay, it would help a little.
Well, but you can be the facilitator. You can form a meetup in your area to find like-minded people who want to learn about WordPress. That's fine.
I've been doing this for 5 years now.
In fact,
that's me. I don't know a thing.
I met a guy actually at a WordCamp a couple weeks ago who was that story. I mean, that was his story. He showed up because he didn't know anything about WordPress and realized that the meetup itself was really disorganized, and so he tried to help out by putting an agenda together and making sure there were snacks and making sure that it started each time at the same time. And then the guy running it was like, "You're better than this at me," and so he like, "Let me get out of this." And so now for the last year, he's been running this meetup, and he's like, I still don't know tons about WordPress, but I know how to organize a meeting, and so I can do that and let other people come and share and talk and give tips. And it totally makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can give back and help a community that wants to learn. And if you write, then write. And whether that's writing docs or writing tutorials or writing,
It could even be something as simple as just writing like a plugin review, like an honest plugin review, or even clicking the rating buttons on the plugin repository. Any of that is a really good way for.
It's super helpful. It really is. And
it is.
I don't even do that enough. I just to like give that feedback, even though I train people to look at that feedback and that data, you got to close that loop a little bit.
Yeah, usually what I tell people is if you ever get to a point with anything where you're saying like, I wish I didn't do that, that's the point when either you need to report the bug or write a little blog post or something, and that's always an easy way to give back, or answer a forum ticket or something.
It is, and it's so important to the plugin developers, like just when they're developing things.
I will give one tip that is for all my friends out there who have disposable income and who may not be experts at writing code. And it is a little way to give back I call patronage, and I did not create that word. But what it allows you to do, is it allows you to sponsor someone else to do the code that they would love to do if they could get paid for it, and still elevate the entire community. So there are several times where I will need something for a client or something else where I'll say, I'm going to focus on this area, but if this developer wants to work on it, I'll pay them to do it, but they can keep the plugin, they can publish the plugin, they can even sell the plugin, they can do whatever they want with it. And invariably what that's resulted in is several different people being able to actually build out the thing they wanted to build, get paid for it, and at the same time spin up potentially even a side business. But you're giving people opportunities to grow. You're giving people opportunities to do the thing they want to do, and sometimes the very thing they need is just a little bit of money. And so if you have disposable income and you want to give back, and time is money, and you don't have the time to burn on this stuff, then put some money where your mouth is and contribute that way.
You can also contribute that way indirectly, because, for example, someone like Natalie McLeese spends, I don't even know how many days a week you spend doing WordPress stuff for free.
No.
Pretty much
8 or 9.
I see on your feeds and everything, you're not, if you're not hosting a meetup or going to a meetup, you're promoting a meetup or something like that. And so, for example, you can indirectly help. So for Natalie right now, she's part of a group called Girl Develop It, and she's actually raising money to fly to New York to help to do more stuff about that there. I don't know the whole story. But basically, you can contribute to Natalie and help her do something else to advance what she's trying to do, and that also helps give back to the WordPress community. So there's so many ways that you can do it without having to get in and do the code and that sort of a thing.
And even just buying from people that are part of the WordPress community, like plugin developers that contribute back, or a lot of agencies are now doing this where they give back to the community, and it's awesome. I want to see more of that. That is just like the best thing to have, like employees and sponsoring employers sponsoring their employees to do that kind of thing on behalf of their company or whatever. But it benefits everybody. It's awesome.
Or just pay for your free plugins. Like, give, $10 to the developer.
I do that randomly.
Especially if you're building a company or building people's companies for them, and making a living off of this. If you are using a free plugin, take that next step and contribute back to that plugin developer, because not only does that help you, because that plugin will be around, but that helps that plugin developer create more stuff. And so it's not just, again, it's not just contributing directly to WordPress specifically. It's contributing to the community, which we've defined. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, one give back that's near and dear to my heart, and people often don't consider this, is volunteering for WordCamps, which is huge for us to put on WordCamps.
Oh, yeah.
So again, if you're facilitating an event that helps 200, 300, 400 people learn WordPress, that's a huge contribution, and it helps so much. So again, as an organizer, that's a big one for me.
That's
and volunteering at WordCamps is a great way to break into the community.
Mhm.
Right? If you know nothing about WordPress, if this is something you just want to learn, volunteering is a good way to do that. Look at Blossom Wright, who volunteered originally at Los Angeles a couple years ago, I think. Natalie, maybe comment
Yeah,
on this.
last year.
She knew nothing. She was not in the community. She really knew, she kind of had a WordPress blog. She volunteered, and now she just spoke. So.
Yeah, we've had plenty of people that come in and they say, like, I don't really know anything about it, but the thing that's actually one of the advantages of volunteering is you get, because you're there kind of for the whole event, and you do get a lot of access to like the speakers and the sponsors that a lot of other people don't get. So there's a perk. Not only do you get in for free and lunch and a T-shirt usually, you get the VIP access, which is nice.
Yeah, and sometimes they have special volunteer shirts, so you get to like wear how awesome you are all the time. I love volunteer shirts.
You get the staff shirt, and it's like, yeah, I'm special.
I'm the special. I help put this thing on. Yeah.
Honestly, so all of these ways are ways that I know, especially all of us have contributed. All of us have spoken at WordCamps, obviously volunteered our time for that, flown to WordCamps, put on WordCamps, half of you, and meetups and stuff. The funny thing is, even with like WordCamp San Francisco and contributing and having been set up with an account and all that there, I still think there is a barrier to actually contributing officially to WordPress, even if you're talking about for the handbooks and the contributor forums and that type of thing. Maybe not in the support forums, but to contribute more officially, I still feel like, people are like, what's IRC? And what is this channel? And, there's a lot of this. There's almost like a technology barrier, a technology awareness barrier between joining up with that stuff. You have to be.
Yeah, actually, it would be terrible of us if we let this whole podcast go by and we didn't mention there actually is a website for this. So if you go to make.wordpress.org, that's kind of like the landing page for how you can contribute to any portion. So we mentioned it, so we're covered now.
Well done, Jeff.
That's actually a really good point, though, because I've struggled with that as well. I've wanted to get in there and help with the training portion of make.wordpress.org, and I've had that same little hiccup where I get in there and I'm like, what's this? Why do I have to sign up for that now? And how do I actually, there is this major speed bump.
Yeah, and there's also a bit of because it's like walking into a party where everyone knows each other, and you're like, hey guys, I'll just be over here in the corner looking at this document. And even at WordCamp San Francisco last year, I was working on the documentation, and I do like editing whatever, so I was just editing stuff, and they're like, just edit whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna edit whatever, like just pick something. And so sometimes having so much freedom where it's like, just help where you can, it doesn't actually help. So the official kind of contribution teams have been getting more streamlined and finding ways in. I follow on all their like email feeds and stuff, so they are working on trying to make it easier to know where to help, as opposed to first you have to figure out how to help, and then you have to figure out where to help. And
but there are actually a few really. I'm sorry, Steve. I was just going to say really quickly that there are some good videos on WordPress.tv about how to contribute, how to get involved with formal contribution. And I think Michael Schroeder, he's a really good one to watch on that topic.
I don't know. I really hesitate to call it formal contributions because formal tends to like put it on a different level because, yes, helping to actually write the software is useful, but honestly, having done all aspects, I wouldn't in any way place it as more critical than helping organize your local community or helping answer the users, because in the end, the users are the people that come first, and if it happens to be giving them new features, that's great. If it happens to be answering their questions, that may have a much larger impact on the users than working on features.
I agree. I think training and educating people in an intelligent and useful way on how to best use WordPress is one of the best things you can do for the community, because it creates these stronger users who not only are then using it and can then become contributors themselves, but they can also spread the awesomeness of WordPress by when people ask them, how do you make your website so awesome? They're like, it's WordPress, blah, blah. So it has this kind of contagion effect.
It does.
Like really I keep trying to not bring it up, but I can't help it. Everyone is down. Go down through 7 chlorine. Okay.
I was going to say, breaking into the conversation is sort of the responsibility of the person that's showing up for the first time and the organizer, right? So, that person, you can't be shy, or you can't be that shy when you get there. You got to sort of raise your hand and say, "I'm here. I'm new. I want to contribute." But the best advice I can give to at least meetup organizers is welcome everybody into your meetup and welcome everybody to participate in their own way. I welcome everybody to speak at my meetup. You can speak on anything.
Unless you're talking about the water cooler.
Anything goes at Steve.
Right, George. We have a total double standard here on the water cooler.
One trick that I've used a lot at my meetup is when, if a lot of new people show up at a certain meetup, because they all seem to come at the same time for some reason, and everyone's just sitting there not talking, I'll be like, okay, everyone who came here and doesn't want to meet anyone, raise your hand. And then they all look around and I'm like, okay, talk to each other. It's okay.
Well, and the first thing I do at every single meetup is I have everybody introduce themselves, say what they're doing in WordPress, especially if they're new, and then I do a wrap-up at the end. Who's a developer? Raise your hand. Who's a designer? Raise your hand. And then I encourage everybody to just go meet and form teams and go do stuff
together.
Absolutely.
Definitely encourage that.
Absolutely.
It makes bonds. It forms bonds.
That way nobody feels like you're chopped liver.
And who's looking for minions?
Yeah. And Steve is always hiring, just in case you're wondering.
There's also been
I
really
hear
cool.
Up's hiring.
I'm hiring. Spectrum is hiring. Craft Favorites hiring. Steve's hiring.
Everybody's hiring.
There's also really cool opportunities to give back in your community for kids. We've had several different kids programs started up here in San Antonio area, and a lot of them don't have anybody to go in and teach WordPress to those kids. So there's an opportunity there that you can give back, and it's not necessarily contributing to the core or anything, but it's still helping the community.
I think the more
I'm going to teach.
The community. Go ahead.
I'm going to my son's high school this semester and teaching a WordPress class.
There you go.
Oh,
there
nice.
you go.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I helped someone's kid start a WordPress site, and then it was going to be a film review site, and then his dad came back and he's like, "Oh, I had to close it down." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Well, it turns out his reviews were just listing all of the bad words in every
Oh no.
He's 11. He was like, "Isn't that what everyone wants to know?"
I was going to say, I bet he got a ton of Google juice from that.
Probably.
Teaching kids is so much fun too. I did it at WordCamp Phoenix. I taught the kids camp, and they're so smart.
They are.
The scary
late
thing
to
is
the
that
party.
they're immediately smarter than you. Like,
Yes.
as soon as you teach them something, they're like, "Oh, I could do this. Oh, and this and this," and you're like, "Sure, do that." It's like, I was going to tell you to do that, but do it anyway. It's fine.
Kids were raised with technology. They know it. They know it.
It's amazing. I had one little girl who said that she wanted to learn how to blog, so I showed her WordPress, and we're walking through it, and then before I knew it, she was like, "So how much do you think I could get paid for my blog articles?"
Chris Lemma School.
An entrepreneur is born.
The Lemma School of Management right there. Yeah. That's what that is.
I approve of this message.
Absolutely.
He's gonna weigh in. Okay, so I've been really fascinated by this discussion because if you read the stuff that's out there, it's actually kind of this crazy debate. People are like, "Oh, you can't donate 5%," and it's like that seems to me almost trivial. And I guess if you're donating, you've got this huge company that's making millions of dollars. It's not trivial, but 5% of my time. I mean, even Chris gives back 5% of his time. He's in charge for it. He really does. Don't you, Chris?
Yeah, it's a little more than 5%, but
Right.
Yeah, that's what
I was giving you an opening. Come on.
yeah. But here's the thing, and I understand a lot of people attacked Ben's article that we've been kind of loosely referencing without actually referencing. I think there was one part of the question in his article which may have been the main thrust, but it didn't come across as a main thrust, which is a question about decision-making, leadership, and everything else around the realm of contribution to the code base. And I think the question was, and I'm now the CTO over at Crowd Favorite, if I were to go hire 2 people, and I said, your full-time job is to write code for core, and I wanted them to work on enterprise-level issues like those that we care about at Crowd Favorite, and we work through fragment caching issues, XYZ, we put supply to patch and said, this is what we'd like to add, we would have spent, if you talk about 2 significant senior development resources, that would be some significant cost. And I think the thrust of Ben's article was simply, what happens then? Like, what happens when you take those resources, spend that money, invest, write some of that code, and then you supply a patch, and then at that point it becomes someone's going to make a decision, who makes the decision, how does the decision get made, etc. And so I think there was a question in the article that actually made sense. I think there was so much more around that question that ended up drawing attack that it was easy to just kind of push the question out. But I know some of the people that make those decisions about what goes in and what goes out. I trust them all. I think they're great people. But if you're not in the know, right? And I think the dynamic was when Matt was talking to a group of 900 people. Not all of them know Nason or Jaquith or Helen or whoever. The question becomes, when you contribute like that, how do you know where that goes, right? What happens when you create that energy and that effort to create a patch of code, and then what happens with it? So I think it's still a good question. I think part of the benefit we've seen with make.content over at the website is that we're seeing more transparency over the years, right? And that's a really good thing. I think we just need to keep moving that forward so that when we invite especially larger entities and folks with more resources that have several serious developers to get involved, what does that process look like for them as well? So,
sure. I think there's also, in that example of if some outside entity or a company comes in and contributes 2 developers to do something big that's a very big structural overhaul, if you're basically doing that, building it, writing it, and everything, those 2 people in private, and then at the very end say, here's what we want to do, I think you're doing it wrong, because it really should be more of a discussion in public with the other core developers. So if there is a problem or if there is a concern about whether it would be suitable or a fit for core, then that would rise sooner, and they would then have the discussion earlier conceptually, as opposed to saying, here's this thing, do you want it or not? Now, there are
totally agree.
That's happened, like MP6, but that's still, the bulk of that was done largely in the open, if not in the open with all the discussions, at least there were weekly releases with comments, feedback, and constant iterative processes.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree. I don't debate any of that. I think by all means we should get resources in the mix. That said, if larger organizations contribute 5%, that could be several people, and if several people show up into an IRC chat and suddenly start driving dialogue, it's going to get interesting and awkward all at the same time quite fast.
I think that's the point, though, actually, is that this discussion is just the beginning, and this is something you're often talking about, Chris, is that the WordPress software itself is evolving, and the software, of everything else is also evolving, and this is an actual, software system that we're using, and so who's making those decisions and the control those contributors, those larger contributors, actually have over it is an interesting topic, and something we haven't figured out yet. We don't know how that's going to turn out. It's changing right now, and so if you care, get involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you do want to get involved,
the future is decided by those that show up.
I think the important thing to remember, though, is that if you do want to get involved, don't feel like you have to start in at core contribution. You can start in Little League and work your way up. If you really want to get in core contribution, there are steps you can do to get to that point. So you're not just jumping in and hoping that you can swim. You can start meeting those people. You can start talking to those people, just see how the process is going. Again, contributor forums. There's tons of ways to get involved, and if you tend towards that, you probably will end up in whatever direction you should have been going in the first place, because people will point you in the right direction.
One last thing. WordPress is predicated on the certain freedoms, right? We call them the 4 freedoms. The first freedom is the freedom to use the software and do anything you want with it, including run a business and do whatever you want. There are no restrictions to what happens when you go to use this software, right?
You should wear a shirt.
Anyone who starts trying to guilt you into contributing, anyone who starts saying, well, you're making money with WordPress, you need to give back, you have to give back, you should give back, I feel bad and upset at you that you haven't given back, just remind them of Freedom 0. right? You are not under any obligation to do anything. So all of this discussion we're having is an invitation to join the journey that other people are doing, but not any sense of obligation that forces you to do something.
Yeah.
That was 2.
Yep. No, he started with 0 because it's an array. So there we go. So guys, on that note,
Next time we'll cover the other 2 of the.
Thank you very much for being on the show today. Make sure you go to the website, make.wordpress.org, and take a look at that. If you want to check out any of the show notes that we've talked about here with various links, go over to the website.
Jason, can they find us on Ello?
They can find us on Ello. Yep. Oh, yeah. Thank you all for being on the show.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.